Hi, folks. Welcome to Inclusive Collective, where we share stories and learnings of inclusive people, organizations, and innovation. I am your co host, Nadia. I'm an organizational development and belonging strategist, and I am joined by my friend, Rob Hadley, a people and culture strategist specializing in DE&I and people analytics. Hi, Rob. How are you
And
this week?
just, life in general. I
Life.
specialize in
You specialize
advice.
in life?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's always good.
I
I
do
could
it
use some
all. I do
advice
it
on
all.
that.
Yeah. But thanks for
That's
that. Thanks for that
adorable.
setup. Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
limit myself to people analytics and DEI today. That's
Yeah,
it.
sure.
That's all I'm doing today.
That's all today and this week. So, Rob, in honor of the end of the year, I
Uh-huh.
I wanted to kind of just ask you if you had any favorite kind of moments or memorable moments or a guest that you really appreciated joining, a discussion that you enjoyed listening to, or anything wise that I said, because
Well, everything that you and I, all of our interactions are memorable. I will
Yeah.
say that.
Sure. They are.
Yeah, they're memorable, and some of my favorites for sure. So, not really a favorite, but there's something that I have been thinking about a lot about,
Uh-huh.
and that is, you might probably wouldn't guess it, but Alicia Thomas, who
Oh,
is the
yeah.
director of DEI at Harvard, MBA and PhD programs,
Mhm.
right? So it's a great episode. Definitely
Mhm.
check it out if you haven't already. For folks that are listening, but Alicia talks about the wraparound care that they give MBA students that they receive,
Yeah.
and so how they really try to think about belonging for students. For those of you that don't know, if you go to a full-time MBA program in something like Harvard, you invest a ton of money. You basically live this lifestyle for 20, 24 months. It's super social. It's very elitist. It's very hyper capitalist. So it's super performative, right? Like you go to
Yeah.
cocktail reception with the Goldman Sachs recruiter and you have to try to be funny and connect with your peers and you're always on.
Oh, wow.
And
Sounds like
so
you know what's going on at
all the
Harvard.
things that you hate about work, you have to really just dial
Yeah.
all those things up, right? And so
Yeah, sure.
and Alicia talks about the support for different types of people that they need, whether you're minoritized racially or from a gender or sexual identity perspective, or if you're a first gen grad student, right? And so I
Mhm.
thought about the value there about that they're creating, right? So that these people end up running companies, nonprofits, they become senators, unfortunately, sometimes, but and getting them through emotionally, spiritually intact and with a sense of community. So I think
Uh-huh.
about how important that is. I also think about that in the context of the current debate about campuses and, on my former campuses and campuses across the country about academic freedom and how supported students feel right now, both, very narrowly from anti-Islamic and anti-Semitic rhetoric on
Mhm.
campuses.
Mhm.
I think about how conservative groups are trying to force the president of Harvard out. The New York Post raised these issues about plagiarism in Claudine Gay's published works,
Yep.
which, Nadia, the New York Post is super dedicated as an institution and they're committed to academic
To
integrity.
to and to mitigate bias.
Absolutely, they are locked in on these issues,
Right.
and then states like my own that are even trying to make work like the very thoughtful work that Alicia Thomas is doing go away entirely. So
Yeah.
that's just been really in the back of my mind, and so I'm wishing Alicia Thomas and her team there at Harvard warm wishes at the end of the year.
That's great. Actually, I really enjoyed that conversation with her as well, and I feel like that was right at the kind of the beginning of what, was being decided with SCOTUS, and she couldn't talk about it at the time, but,
Hmm.
I do appreciate the fact that she was talking about some of the things that they were doing for students, who had these marginalized identities, and so, yeah, really great episode. I think, absolutely folks should take a listen to that if they haven't already.
Yeah, yeah.
Um
What sticks out for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. We clearly like the professors or the people in academia because I really enjoyed our conversation that we had with Dr. Peter Huang.
Oh, right.
So for folks that may not remember, he was a professor, also an attorney. Um he wrote a book called Disrupting Racism, and he talked with us about the connection of mindfulness practices to DE&I, and along with that, really particularly like examining your thoughts, um, to help kind of make better decisions
Hmm.
and mitigating biases, using humor,
Hmm.
to kind of, inject humor, he says, to really help people talk better or navigate healthier conversations or difficult conversations. He talked about listening and having empathy and connecting with people and like learning from folks, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
actually talking to people and learning from them. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that because he talked also about like that piece of mindfulness related to bias, and how there's been studies done where that really truly reduces racist actions and
Hmm.
reduces implicit biases. It's just a reminder that there are other types of wellness activities such as mindfulness that folks can practice to really examine
Hmm.
their biases and then help them think through what are some action steps to further mitigate them. So I really appreciated the conversation with Dr. Wong, and that was, I think, in season 4 as well, earlier on. So if folks haven't had an opportunity to take a listen, definitely download the episode and tune in over the holiday break.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like and particularly enjoyed the humorous parts, or the references to certain humorous clips, and use the reference toward using humor as a way to call out people before their biases and help them understand them as well,
Totally.
and use them use humor as a tool for education. So
Yeah,
uh,
and he's quite funny himself,
he is, he
right?
is.
He was a delight to have on the podcast as a guest. So
Yes. All right, let's take a quick break, Nadia. We'll come back with a couple of more stories, or what we know around here as the
the
deets.
deets.
Stay with us.
Welcome back, folks. So I'll go ahead, Rob, with the first deed here. So a small business resource platform called Hello Alice has filed a motion recently to dismiss a class action lawsuit claiming a grant program offered in partnership with Progressive Insurance unlawfully discriminated against business owners based on race.
Hmm.
So, just a quick update on this. I read this in the Press Democrat last week. There's a partnership between Hello Alice and Progressive, where they offered $25,000 in grants to 10 Black owned small businesses to be put toward the purchase of a commercial vehicle for their business. And then there was a lawsuit claiming from an Ohio resident, Nathan Roberts, who claimed that there was they experienced reverse discrimination, and that he was treated differently because of his race. He is a white man who owns a business, a trucking dispatch company in Ohio. I will pause there for your reaction. Oh, and I'll just also offer, because I know how
I don't
excited
know
you
him.
get.
Yeah, I
I
don't
know you
know
don't
him
know,
personally.
but
Yeah.
but just so you know that this person went to Stephen Miller's organization
Mm,
to seek the support for this claim.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the Hello Alice brief, or whatever motion, was basically, there's four things that make it completely, yeah, utterly not utter nonsense or something like that, right? And so, they could have filed a legal brief titled, "This is bullshit," right? But this is where the battle lines are being drawn. We talk about it a lot, right? We should
Yep.
definitely have Samia Kamani, a real lawyer, on to talk about some of these issues,
Yep.
other than me, because even though I love to lawyer a little bit, I am not. I'm not trained as such. But again, I keep coming back to, this is probably BS and utter nonsense, like they said.
Hmm.
However, at some point, they're going to find a case that can get to the Supreme Court,
Hmm.
and the way that I see the world is not going to be the way that the world is going to work going forward, right? So companies
Right.
need to prepare for that time in which voluntary affirmative action goes away, and global companies as well. I was, a lot of places around the world modeled their approach to affirmative action
Hmm.
based on US law and language as well. And so it's people really should start thinking about what are we going to do when this goes away, and how are we going to think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how are we going to advance those things and those values that we really care about in a world in which it's the contours of the law that we've become accustomed to for the
Yeah.
last 30, 40 years are not in the same place.
Yeah, totally agree. And, in addition, it's like still continuing to recognize that there are disparities between folks that have kind of always received these privileges, whether it's like through grants or through funding. And so, Hello Alice, just so folks are aware, Alice, this organization has served 1.4 million small business owners and has administered over $40 million in grants to entrepreneurs
Mm,
all across different, like through supplier diversity contracts with businesses that are owned by veterans, women, or other socially disadvantaged groups.
yeah.
So, it's interesting that over the last, I would say, probably 4 or 5 months, you and I have covered a similar claim like this and discussed it. And I feel like it's not going to end soon, like you mentioned. So we'll keep an eye on this and some of the other claims that have been brought up. But I agree with you. I think that we got to figure out how to get a handle on them.
Apparently, Nathan Roberts does not agree with you that there are still significant disadvantages from some groups.
Yeah,
He just
sure.
feels left out.
He
Right?
feels
He
left
just wants to
out,
belong.
excluded.
He feels
Listen, we're not here to
excluded.
exclude people, but we also
Right,
are
right.
here to make sure that everyone has the same playing field.
Yeah,
That's
uh,
what we're talking about.
absolutely, absolutely. Check in on Nate Roberts
We'll
next
check
time
on
we
him.
get you.
Yeah.
Nate Roberts.
Our
All right.
buddy Nate. All
All
right.
right. Nadia. All right.
Yes.
So we got a story about Meta. Meta, they
Mhm.
they own Facebook, right? Do you
They
remember how?
do?
Do you remember remember how? So before there was, Elon Musk turning Twitter into X, which is just really silly. There
Yeah.
was Facebook turning into Meta, right? And so like
Yeah.
we forget how dumb that was as
It
well,
was so
right?
dumb.
That I still have
Yeah.
to say Meta. Like if you work for
Do
X,
you
Nadia.
though? I say the Facebook, but all right.
Well, if you say you work for X and you go to
Yeah.
a social gathering, do you say that you work for X or do you say Twitter, or do you say I work for
Yeah.
X and then people go, well, what's that? And you go, oh, it's Twitter.
Yeah, or people do they say like that's a great question. Like if I worked for X and I went to like a dinner party, and I think I would say I work for X formerly known as Twitter. And I would say it in a very sarcastic tone so people really
Yeah,
understood how annoyed
yeah, yeah.
am that I still work at that company. But yeah.
Totally, totally. You definitely would say the word. Yeah, you definitely say Twitter. Well,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yep.
as an aside, so at Meta, a former global diversity strategist at Facebook, a Meta company, pled guilty to wire fraud after stealing more than $4 million to fund a lavish lifestyle. Federal prosecutors
Wowza.
said.
Okay.
Barbara Furlow Smiles, who led various Facebook DEI programs from 2017 to mid 2021, stole the money through an elaborate scheme involving fraudulent vendors, fictitious charges, and kickbacks, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Atlanta. So Nadia, she ran ERGs, so affinity group
Ugh.
programming, and she would say, we're going to have a taco truck for Hispanic Latino Heritage Month. And then she would have a friend create an LLC, like, taco truck, bill Facebook, and then split the profit from that. That's obviously a bad
Wow.
example because if I was approving an invoice for a taco truck and I didn't actually get tacos, that would be a red flag, and I
Yeah.
would I would definitely investigate further, and this never would have happened.
Yeah.
So Nadia,
Yeah.
kickbacks. What do you
This is
think?
I mean, so this is wild. Like I think as both of us, I think you would agree with me that like as practitioners, as professionals, this is highly unethical and I'm appalled because I feel like there's a part of our people practice kind of obligation to continue to be fair and equitable in the processes and practices that we um role model within the workforce. So disappointed in this person. Come on, Barbara, like you could have done better, be better. Um so yeah, just really appalled at that story.
Yeah, probably going to jail, right? I mean, wire fraud's a big
Yeah.
deal. So you
Or,
know,
like, really heavy fines in addition to jail time.
yeah, not a good look, not a good
Not a
look.
good look, yeah.
And but we do this. So the other thing that I think of is, we do programming, right?
Sure.
We
Yeah.
do programs. We do little song and dance every once in a while, but you know, it's the lowest order of importance to me personally, right? We prefer to do education, and even that is tough sometimes. You get, it's something that has to take place, but people show up and they're not necessarily wanting to be there. So I always think that 80 to 90% of a budget dedicated to DEI should be around data driven problem solving, right?
Uh-huh.
So creating action to have impact for the people that, for the stakeholders of the organization, which are most
Mm,
often the employees, right? And
right.
so it's just, if you're spending that much on programs and then you're not necessarily following up to see if the programs are even taking place and someone's
Sure.
actually able to get kickbacks off of it, to me that seems that you're being performative in the way that you're, and what you're putting your budget toward.
Yeah, and, we talk about having, like, checks and balances, and what I mean by that is, like, this mindset of plan, do, check, adjust, and at some point in time, there should have been, like, there should have been some sort of guardrails to understand, um, whether it's, like, a team of people or a collaborator on the team that kinda checked and verified some
Hmm.
of the vendors and the vendor partners that were being hired. Um, Oftentimes, like, organizations will get, quotes or, um, statements of works from 3 different organizations so that they can kind of compare,
Hmm.
make sure services are kind of aligned and that maybe perhaps the cost or budget is market value, whatever, they decide to do, and it just seems like I just don't know how at a big company like this that happened, where there was no checks and balances or accountability to hiring vendors, and making kind of sure that those folks practice ethical in an ethical manner.
Yeah, and it's possible that this type of programming was again performative, and no one was
Yeah,
checking on it, right? So if I ran a
right.
sales organization or sales training programming and I spent $4 million,
Yeah.
you would want to everyone in that organization would be talking about how good the sales training programs were,
Totally.
right?
Yeah, right,
And
totally.
whereas this, it's not a priority. If
Yeah.
you're able to build $4 million and and no one knows where it went, then that means that no one who is responsible is actually uh, invested in these programs, right? And
Yeah.
so
Like,
anyway,
so I'm just curious, I know, like, I don't wanna joke around with this, but I can't help but not, like, what were the lavish lifestyles? Like, was she, like, buying, like, Louis Vuitton bags? Like, what was happening? Do we know?
I did not. I don't think I invested enough time
Oh, you don't follow
to
her on
figure out.
X?
No, I thought it, but I think that's something we should research as well. So
Yeah.
anyway, thanks so much, Nadia. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with end of year rants and raves.
Welcome back, folks. Okay, it is that time for our final end of the year rants and raves. First, I just want to acknowledge we made it, Raw. We made it through a whole other year,
Yeah, yeah,
and pretty incredible. So,
an award-winning year, Nadia.
an
That's
award-winning year.
the way I
That's
look at it.
right. I know our producer Aria is smiling in the background. So, yeah. So, why don't you kick us off with the rant?
So I just want to remind you of some things that actually happened this year. And so there was a near banking system collapse, and the Wall Street Journal said it was because banks were too woke. NASCAR was sued for being too woke. Yes, NASCAR, the sport where a bunch of white dudes would go around a track in a circle. There was Bud
Oh my
Light. There was the
goodness.
Bud Light
Oh, Bud
saga
Light.
where
That was this year.
conservatives, they hate Bud Light, but
Mhm.
Garth Brooks likes Bud Light, and somehow he's an inclusive figure. I think the state of Tennessee made it illegal to be in drag ever at any time
Yeah,
that
they
happened, right?
did.
So
They sure did.
so people are exhausted. So there will be no
Mhm.
rant today. I just want to wish everyone happy holidays if your holidays occur at this time of the year, and then a happy new year if your year ends at this time of year. we're so happy that our audience joins us every week, and appreciate you as well, Nadia. So no rants this week.
Oh, that's sweet. No, I like that. Thank you for ending on that note, and some of those reminders where it was a tough year. So I appreciate that. I will end this segment with so the organization PwC rolled out a neurodiversity interactive learning program to all of its 32,000 plus UK employees. It's called Great Minds, and then in parentheses, Don't Think Alike. This program explores the topic of neurodiversity and includes bite sized resources, as well as I thought, which was interesting, is tells the stories and experiences from its own PwC employees. So I just wanted to kind of recognize that work. I haven't seen it, but I love the focus on neurodivergency, especially because it can be a visible or invisible dimension of diversity. And would love to see what it's like. So anyone at PwC who might be listening, if you want, if you want to pull me and Robin and kind of share with us the great work you're working on, would love to observe that. So
Open
that's all.
invitation to anyone
Open
at
invitation.
PwC. There's
Anyone.
anyone.
All like
I'm-
100,000 employees.
yeah, anywhere globally. All right, awesome. Thanks for that, Nadia.
Yeah.
That is it for Inclusive Collective for 2023. Just a
Wow.
reminder that if you are looking for DEI and workplace culture strategy consulting, problem solving, or training, you can reach Nadia at nasconsultants.com and Rob at decanoconsulting.com. Inclusive Collective, as you know, Nadia, is a production of Rifelion Media, edited by the wonderful Ari Mathey. Happy New Year, Ari. We'd love to hear from you all. So send us some feedback at inclusivecollective@rifelion.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Be sure to follow up with us on LinkedIn because you can subscribe to the IC monthly newsletter. If you like what you heard, please go out there and subscribe to the show, rate us wherever you get your podcast. Thanks again to our guests, Rob and Nadia. That's us. We will be back in 2024. Bye, Nadia.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and happy New Year. Be well.
Didn't you hear that?
Yeah, it's okay though. It's just silly. She's joining us in the end of the year.